I'm Pontius, and welcome back to Unexpected Awesome. Despite what it may look like, I actually have a relatively broad array of tastes when it comes to movies and books. But if I had to say anything about that, one of my most consistent areas of interest is in crime fiction. Detective heists, action stories, tales of revenge and redemption, they run the gamut. By and large, one of the most entertaining and generally fascinating areas of crime fiction is that of crime comedies. Generally rely on relatable yet colorful characters in realistic yet zany worlds, finding themselves caught up in the wacky hijinks of criminal conspiracies gone awry. These movies and books generally operate and set up the juxtaposition of the flaws of the human condition up against logical, predictable worlds that we all live in. And these, in my mind, generally get bonus points in creativity if they're set in the open-air meme that is Southern Florida. Thus enter in Big Trouble, a 2002 crime ensemble comedy by Barry Sonnenfeld based on the book by Dave Barry. A former Miami newspaper columnist finds himself of a pair of hitmen trying to assassinate a bent construction exec, only to find himself being robbed by two lobotomized petty criminals who traps him, the newspaper columnist, the exec's trophy wife, and a gaggle of other colorful characters, eventually leading the newspaper columnist to put everything on the line, chase down a plane, fight a petty criminal, and save the Caribbean from nuclear apocalypse. While all of this is happening, the ex-reporter is attempting to bond with his son, who considers him to be a loser, gave up on life, as well as attempting to win the heart of Lady Fair and the trophy wife of the bent exec. Overall, the story is pretty solid, and while it may not have many grand character arcs, with the exception of the leading man, maybe his son, overall the characters themselves are very well defined, with strong personalities, and just articulately written and performed dialogue. And all of this is complemented and presented masterfully by Barry Sonnenfeld, whose sense of pacing and tone ties up everything into a cozy little package, where the most absurd things in the world will happen, and the most cliched methods of comedy films such as in media res, flash freezing, and they're all utilized, but never drag the experience down. And that's not even mentioning the fact that despite being a very grounded story setting and overall characters, it still has a bright and colorful personality of a film, with its art direction such as Lady Fair's bright outfits, the son's incredibly 90s dyed hair and button-up shirt, and the New Jersey polo shirts of the assassins. But that's not even the finest aspect of the story. The best aspect about this comedy is, of course, the jokes. There are some exceptional sight gags and running jokes throughout the entire film, such as the rude beer executive that opens up the film as the loudmouthed heel to our relatable leading man, who turns into ultimately the butt of many jokes as he finds himself shooting his mouth off at far more dangerous players of the dramatis personae, such as blowing cigar smoke and getting his finger broken by the hitman, or being carjacked by a pair of feds trying to stop a nuclear bomb from blowing up Miami, or the ongoing radio call with the stubborn Gator football fan calls into a radio station purely to prove the disc jockeys wrong, that Gator fans will only ever call in and boast when they win, and that he's willing to call in when they lose. The incompetent security guard brothers, the pervasive influence of Martha Stewart over the entire world, manifesting itself ultimately as a mind-breaking hallucination by the bent exec as he finds himself tripping balls over the hallucinogenic spray of a wild toad. The FBI agents trying to track down the nuke, illegally parking a carjacked exec's vehicle in front of the airport locale of the final act of the film, being called over the intercom. All of these jokes and many, many others that will split your sides like a log splitter are not only tastefully done, but naturally filigreed into the presentation and story, ultimately making not only for a fairly good movie, but also a pretty funny comedy. So if you're looking for an enjoyable and generally awesome ensemble comedy, feel free to saunter on over to the casual Floridian madness of Big Trouble.